So
Yeah. Yes.
people will be able to hear it later if
Mhm.
need be. Unfortunately, it doesn't help any. Well, you wouldn't
Mhm.
be able to make comments through YouTube anyways. So,
Mhm.
okay. Next on the agenda, townwide speed limit reduction. I know this is something I sort of mentioned and Brian sort of brought up as well. So I know Bedford does it, Concord does it. Um, I think this was just sort of an idea that we were throwing out there. Normally, if there's not a if it's not a identified speed limit, then the speed limit is 30, I believe, in the state. Scott, is that right?
Correct.
I remember my driving instructor's book. Um, so we were talking about possibly reducing that to 25. Um, I'd be interested if we were to do that, what roads would it affect? Right? What ones do we have signs on and what ones do we not? I know that would be a ton of work for you to go through.
Yeah, so every year, well, every other year, we have our traffic consultant do a drive around town and reevaluate all the roadway conditions. When they do that every other year, we have them capture one piece of additional information. So, for example, year one when they did it, we had them grab guardrail locations. That was back in 2015, in 17, and so on and so on and so on. So we've captured a lot of information, all of our pavement markings, our guardrail locations, our sidewalks, our curbing, a lot of roadside data. This year, we just contracted them to update the guardrail information. Um, the They do provide the service for the signs, to do a sign inventory. It's very costly, and it generally results in bad news. Not not that there's not enough signs, but your signs are old and not meeting the reflective criteria mandated by the state. Um, the old faded stop signs. Well, they're not just faded; they don't catch your headlights and like the brand new ones. So generally, when you do that, you should be prepared to spend like tens of thousands of dollars on signs pretty quickly thereafter.
Okay.
Do they mandate that a certain time frame to replace them, or are you given a certain period of time to replace so many? So you do 10 a year or 20 a year or whatever.
Well, you need to program something into your operating budget. So the what when you encounter something that's non-compliant, um, for example, our guardrails. We have guardrails that are not only non-compliant because we don't use that design anymore, but they're in poor condition. We know where they are. We have a programmatic process to replace them. So we're not negligent. We have a plan to address it. Our street trees are the same thing. We have a lot of aging and dying street trees. We have a plan to manage them, so we're not negligent. Same thing with the street signs. You do your inventory, you come up that you need $90,000 worth of street signs replaced, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. Um, you got to throw something in the operating budget. Do you do $15,000 a year or $10,000 a year? So every 10 years, your signs get replaced, something to that effect. So before we gather the information, we want to make sure we have something in the operating. I don't know what I'm throwing out numbers. I don't know. For all I know, there's 1,000 signs and they're $200 each. I don't know. I really don't. But at least as long as there's some program for replacement, then we're not liable.
Okay. Because I did, after we've had the meeting, after Bill mentioned that, I've seen so many different towns do it now. Framingham has it. Bolton has it. Berlin, I think, has it.
I can
Um,
ask our traffic consultant, our roadway consultant. They have not done the drive around yet. They're going to do it after we finish the paving season.
mhm.
I can ask them if they're interested in a scope swap to drop the guardrail and do signs. My guess is it's going to be substantially more money, but I can ask if you'd like.
But I think that would be good. I think it would also be, the residents would be, it's really kind of a nice feeling when you're driving through the town that sign's there when you first get into those entrances to the town. And I'm sure that we could probably, the way the budget's been going, I'm sure that that would be something brought to town meeting that the general public should have the right to say we would like to spend the money for. and not prevent it from, because we don't know. But I think that, there's a lot of little streets, like Ridge Road is a pretty good example, doesn't have a sign on it. That would be better to at least have that, because that's one of the ones coming into town, I think, actually. But yes, that would be fabulous if you could do that and put it in the queue and let people know.
Yeah, even if we can't get it this year, maybe if we can try to get it for next year.
Right.
Yep.
But at least getting that we can get the documentation this year and.
Yeah,
and-
I'll reach out to them. I mean, if it's not a substantial increase, more than happy to do it. If it triples the cost, I'll bring it back to the committee and say, hey, this thing went from 30 to 90. But if it's not a lot of money, we'll pull the trigger on it. I want to get that information. That was another one in the queue. But guardrails have been a topic of discussion recently. So I thought we'd update that first. But yeah, that's something. The more information I have, the happier I am. The better we can do.
Great, thanks
Good.
a lot.
Yep. Okay, next is the continuing discussion about the crosswalk enhancements. I know I was at a meeting on Monday at the select board where this actually came up. As one of the things I reached out to a couple of select board members about possibly using ARPA funds for this. And what the select board had done was they had actually put out to the select board members and said, pick some of your projects out of the list that you would like done. And I think two of them actually picked this crosswalk project as, something to add for ARPA funds. Do I think we're going to get the funding for it? No, I don't think so. I think there was a lot of conversation about sidewalks. Like everyone picked sidewalks, which is great. And I think we should probably be spending the money on, fixing up some of the sidewalks. So my thought, and Lisa, I'm probably going to need your help on this, but my thought is this should probably go as a warrant in the next town meeting. Maybe not October, maybe next April.
I totally agree. I obviously was one of the two select persons that asked for it. What I didn't do is put pricing in, because I have supposedly an allowance. And I would be willing to use a good portion of my allowance to do some of these. I think that it's really important. We've been asking for this. It's safety. It certainly serves an awful lot of the general public. And I know that Scott had sent me a price list of per light or per set, what it was going to be. What I wanted to check with you, Scott, is because it's going into a prefab, so to speak, a pole. It's not the big poles like I've seen in Westboro, but the ones we have are on the same poles as signs, where they've got those prefab holes and you bolt it on. Is there no way that the DPW can install those? Because $2,000 installation each is a killer, and that's what's going to cause a problem.
We can install one. We can install a set. That's not a problem. We have the expertise to install them. Okay. We don't have the bandwidth to implement a project like this, like 7 sets. I mean, we could install one every, I don't know, as time allows. So the person who installs them is also the person who manages the cemeteries. So it could take 2 years, 3 years to do this, for us to install them. Yeah. But then we need to hire somebody to put in the because what was proposed included wheelchair ramp improvements. So because some of these crosswalks don't have compliant wheelchair ramps.
Right, but do you have to do that to put the lights in?
We don't have to do that, but we were talking about doing crosswalk enhancements. I mean, it's all around the schools. It's the right thing to do. If we were going to get capital, if we go to capital funding, the capital improvement plan to do this, you do it right. You get this. You have a contractor put it all in. The wheelchair ramps are compliant and accessible. If staff does it, we're not going to do the wheelchair ramps. We're not flat work concrete experts. We don't do that. I put in a grant application. Well, police department, I believe, is discussing a grant application for one set of these lights. We could install that.
Okay, so I think that might be a little bit of way of even putting down, even as I say, even if we have to do them in step by step for a couple of years, and maybe things can change next year and there would be another grant. I mean, the Complete Streets doesn't do that, but doesn't Mass Works. When I started to research some of the two different 2023 and 2022, there was a lot of different asks that different towns had. And I think that could be something that we could apply for as well, couldn't we?
This would not fall under a MassWorks grant. This is not what MassWorks is geared toward. MassWorks is geared toward economic development, continuity of community transportation, not localized safety. This would be eligible in the Complete Streets, which is maintaining streets for accessibly for everyone. If it was a Complete Streets grant, it would absolutely require the wheelchair ramps. If this was going to be, if this was a shared streets and spaces grant, which I believe is what you might be referring to, Lisa. That's what we did with the ones at Ellsworth, the Memorial, and Assabet. Those all have new concrete wheelchair ramps because that's a requirement from state funding.
Yep.
If this comes out of local funding, it's not necessarily the right thing to do, but we can do it. Put in signs, but it's putting in 7 sets of these is not what we can't tie up a crew of 4 for 2 weeks to put these things in.
All right, but I think let's move forward on some. I'll talk with the board with some of that ARPA money, because I really do think it's and I did bring that up, saying that traffic safety had asked for it, as well as the residents have asked for it, and I think it's something that we really need to start doing a little of that. So even if it were 3 different lights, I mean, the one by Lincoln Street with Lincoln and Pleasant, or where we know that there's some serious traffic and people using the street a lot, then work it that way. But I would think more school-wise, and that's probably the one on the schools, even on Northgate. As they have that, and I don't even think that doesn't have a wheelchair ramp, does it? The one on Northgate?
Yes, it does. It's non-compliant, but it does.
Okay.
On the Chesterfield side, it does. I don't know about the other side. So, are we proposing to put this item on the capital improvement plan? Is that what? If it doesn't reach ARPA?
I think I still feel that if it doesn't meet ARPA, I really think we just bring this up as a warrant item in the town meeting in April.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't see it, being denied, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And as I say, we should see what funding is available and apply for the grant and or grants and start moving that way too, because I did mention that. I mentioned that crosswalks, more paint and that sort of thing. So
Right.
So I can talk with our planning director and see if she's interested in seeking a shared streets and spaces grant for this. I don't think it's a very competitive grant application for that. It was a while ago when nobody knew what to do with that grant, but now people are using that for other uses. Improving accessibility to existing facilities that provide service to a lot of different entities. Where this is just schools, it may not get. The other ones we put in, we're all at recreational fields and things like that. So maybe it'll get it, maybe not. Safe routes to schools, that might be a good grant a grant program to apply to. That gets applied to through the school department, not the public works or planning usually. But the only grant funding mechanism that I'm aware of would be either Complete Streets or shared streets and spaces. They're both Mass DOT, so I don't believe the planning director wants to spend half of her allocation for Complete Streets on these crosswalks. That's like downtown money for her.
No, and I think she's already got that money spent. So, to be honest, with the downtown stuff, which I get.
Yep.
Well, All right. If you can, just drop me what you think they are, grants available, and I'll do a little research too. And find
Be
out what.
happy
But
to do that.
unless the board doesn't, I'm just assuming that our board wants to do this. We want to get these up. So,
Yeah, I think, we look to see whatever grants we can get, and if we have to fill in some money at the town meeting, then we fill in some money with the town meeting,
okay.
right?
And I would love it if we wrote a letter, from this committee saying the importance of it.
Yep.
Because, I got to put it on the list tomorrow. And that's, for me, it's one of the most important things is we're going to do all these other things that were listed. I think this is one of the more important things for a greater population in the town. And when do you know when the grants are they all like done by June 1st, or is it depending on the grant?
All programs are different. Complete Streets is a rolling grant application. There's a few of the larger state ones through the One Stop that is June 1. There are other ones that are more driven by the federal fiscal year, which ends September 30th. So they're kind of all over the map. I think the shared spaces is twice a year, at least it was during COVID. I haven't looked at that one since COVID. And the Safe Routes to Schools, that's a DOT one. I'm not familiar with that. That's a school district thing. But I'll send you some of the ones that I'm familiar with, Lisa, and maybe you'll find a good fit in there.
Right. We might be able to even ask the delegates what they could do for us. So, all right. So we know we have 7. Were there any others that we were going to list?
I think we were doing the 7 just because we were concentrating on the schools.
Right.
And the other problem is that we don't, again, as Scott said many times, we don't have control over Route 20, right? So if MassDOT wants to do one, great, but I think that still falls under their jurisdiction, so we can't ask for ones across Route 20.
That's something I would like to talk to the delegates about too, because we have a lot of activity across 20.
Right.
People crossing to Town Hall, people crossing downtown, people crossing to the Common, and even further down by what the Lowe's Meat Mall. I'm sorry, I know it's
Yeah, at the church there.
yeah. So and again, I think we have to start looking at the safety factor that's involved. So,
Kate, are you saying something? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was just saying there's a lot of people crossing the street all the time at Lowe's.
Right.
yeah.
Go ahead, Rachel.
So the ones that were on Ellsworth Maccabee and Route 135, Route 135 is a state road too, right?
No,
So how does one,
it's
is
not.
that not considered
It's not a state road.
it's not a state road?
It's a local.
Oh, okay, never mind.
It's a local road with a state number on it.
Okay, never mind.
No problem.
Okay. Anything else on that subject?
Only if you could get that letter to me, before noon tomorrow, so I can put it in with my.
I can send something over email. I don't know that I can get it on any town letterhead or anything.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah.
I can definitely get you an email.
Okay.
Okay. For the ongoing items, I know right before school stopped, Scott, I did notice that there were some
Counters.
what is it? Counters there.
Mm.
Was that for the study that we were trying to do, or is that
Yep,
something
yep.
else?
Nope, that was us. That was Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. They provide us a free traffic counting service as available. Generally, we can get 1 or 2 sets of counts per year. And we chose to go this year, the committee did, with Lincoln Street and Pleasant, both upper and lower. I did a quick look through it. I didn't do any detailed deep dive, but all 3 road segments appear to meet the percentage criteria to consider a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion. That's Lincoln Street, Upper Pleasant, and Lower Pleasant.
Okay.
The,
So- What do we have to do next to apply for this estate?
no, then the next step is an engineering study, and report to determine if it meets all the warrants and criteria. Then that can go to, this committee to make a recommendation to the select board. The select board can then, vote to submit the heavy commercial vehicle exclusion request to DOT. DOT reviews it. If they approve it, it goes back to the select board for them to, enact it or, codify it, I guess. And then, we get the signs, we put them up.
Right, okay.
The engineering study for Summer Street and the engineering study for Rice Ave were, $10,000 each. This one will likely be a bit more because it's 3 roadway segments. I'm guessing somewhere 12, 15K. There is no money available in the FY24 operating budget. Any funds that were going to be spent on this would have to come out of FY25. And so everybody's aware, there is no engineering, budget for this type of work. Last year, the two studies came out of our paving allocation.
So if I put that in ARPA as well for those
Yes.
3 streets, but we run into that timeline.
No, it'll be contractually obligated quickly. So we procured 2 engineering consultants in accordance with federal procurement regulations to support an EPA $500,000 earmark we received last year through Senator Warren's office, Markey's office, and so they are properly procured. We can engage them through our task orders. And utilize ARPA funds for the analysis.
All right, would you mind dropping me an email so that I can add that to my allowance?
Certainly, happy to do it.
If that's gonna get some up, let's, do what we can with it. There's money there that's for other things that I don't know are as important, but at least I can,
Okay.
Can present it.
yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Hate to do it at the last minute. Oh, it's terrible, but that's how we always do it. It's like, oh,
That's how things work sometimes.
Yep. I do have something that may be able to be discussed under other business, which I now see I have to add to the agenda. Anything else that may come before the committee, I'll put that on the next one.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. Regarding sidewalks and just so everybody remembers, this is the traffic safety committee, but part of the charge was all modes of transportation, pedestrian as well as cycling and vehicular. So this is about sidewalks. As you indicated, Bill, and Lisa, you're well aware, sidewalks were a repeated wish on the ARPA lists for all the select board members. All I believe except for one, I think 4 of them had sidewalks on them. There is a mechanism where I believe we can get to where we want to be within the time frame required. So ARPA money has to be contractually obligated by the end of this calendar year.
Mhm.
One of the challenges with sidewalks is the property lines and what easements may be required to install a new sidewalk. We may need to take easement slivers from abutting property owners when there is an adequate space. So I'm waiting on a response from town council. I asked them if we could do sidewalk construction with a memorandum of agreement between Northborough and the abutter, and therefore accept an easement at a future town meeting. That would allow us to build it and later accept the easement.
Right.
One of the risks in that is that if they change their mind, we now have a big problem.
Right.
But we do have a paving contractor who's a unit price contractor under contract for this year and the next 2 years. Sidewalk construction is a very simple change order in their scope of work. It's well within their expertise, and it's within the scope of a paving contractor. So we could engage one of the two engineering consultants I just referenced to do some survey and preliminary design for sidewalk connectivity, and then engage authorize a change order with our contractor to do the work by the end of this calendar year. I hope town council comes back and says yes, you can do that. I think they will. I've seen other communities do it. Every lawyer, a lot of lawyers have a lot of different answers to the same question. So we'll see what their advice is, but that's an option, and I just wanted this committee to hear it laid out. So and you as well, obviously, Lisa.
Yeah, and so the attorney is about the easement, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, and I do know we all agreed to Allen Street.
Yes, we're looking at, and I sat down with our planning director, Lori, 2 days ago, and we looked at the little piece on Hudson Street
Yeah.
between Center Drive and the church.
Yeah.
Allen Street, from the bridge up to East Main.
Yeah.
We looked at Monroe and Gale, picking up over by Tony Abu's building and wrapping it around to South Street.
Yeah.
We looked at removing and replacing the existing sidewalk on South Street from Gale into downtown. It's in poor condition. There's next to no reveal on the curbing, and as part of the downtown, beautification, I guess, it's a nice portal to town, and it would look nice if we were to do it around Gale and Monroe. It'd be nice to complete that loop with some quality sidewalk. Then Maple Street was another one we were looking at. I don't believe there's any chance there's enough ARPA money to build Maple Street, but we could contractually obligate the design money to a consultant to do the land survey and determine, is it viable? How bad would the easements be? Can we get around the utility poles without having a massive relocation project? We've been talking about that sidewalk for a long time, and I always have the same questions. What about the poles? What about the easements? What about the drainage? Well, if we have the resources to bring an engineer on board, do the survey, and give us some recommendations on the feasibility of it, maybe now's the time.
So are you also looking for the engineering costs out of ARPA?
Yes.
So again, can you itemize that? Because without itemization,
Yep,
we won't get any vote on it.
Yes. I can give you the narrative I just described to you. I won't have numbers on it. I'm actually meeting with the consultant tomorrow morning at 9
Okay.
to go over the scope. But before the agenda is posted for the July 15th meeting, my expectation was to absolutely have a hard number for you guys, for the board.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. And if, again, maybe maybe a CC to the board, the board,
Yes.
board, saying this is what, for all this work, this is what we're looking to do. And maybe that might sway a couple of the other pieces of money to go toward that.
Yep, we'll do.
Great, thank you.
Okay. I know the last thing I think we sort of touched on it with the HCV for Brigham Street, and that is staying on our radar.
Mhm.
I don't know what we can do about it, but we'll keep talking about it. Maybe we'll get some bright idea on how to deal with that, unfortunately. So at this point, I'm going to open the meeting up to public comment. If there's any members of the public who would like to make a comment, I don't see anyone in the attendees list. So I would not think that there's anyone to make public comment. So we'll move on to the next thing, the approval of the April 9th minutes. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes? Any amendments, any questions, concerns? If not, is there somebody who'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second,
Okay, moved by Brian, seconded by Kate. Roll call vote. Rachel,
I approve.
Kate,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an I. Let's see, next meeting is, I guess we need to go through what our meetings are for the next couple months, for the summer months, right? So we've got July 9th. And then August 13th. Is there any issue? Go ahead, Lisa.
I'm not going to be here on July 9th.
Okay.
But you can have your meeting without
Kate,
me.
you're on mute.
That's only 2 weeks away too, so I don't know if that really makes sense to meet
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
that quickly.
I don't think we're going to have much on the agenda. I'm knocking on wood, but until after the 15th, because July 15th is that select board meeting. That's going to be a big deciding factor that night. So maybe waiting till the 13th might be best.
I think that works. And we'll make the next meeting the August 13th. We'll take a month-long break. And I hope everyone has a good summer. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay. Moved by Brian, seconded by Rachel. Roll call vote. Rachel,
I.
Kate,
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And I'm an I as well. Have a good summer and see everyone in August. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.